Just a quick video on what I'm doing on this DR200. It's the road legal DR, and I bought it quite a while ago. It wasn't running properly. It was way too rich. So pulled apart the carburetor, and what I found was there is a washer which sits on top of the needle. So this is the needle here which meters the fuel ratio, and there's supposed to be a flat washer which sits on top of this needle, and so the needle sits down on a slide like this, and then there's a washer which sits on top, and then the spring holds pressure down on top of the needle like that, so then the needle doesn't ride up by itself. As you can see, it can just push in. So what happened was the washer wasn't there, as demonstrated. There's no washer on this one, and the needle was just free to slide up. The carburetors slide and get stuck, so it's pretty much just behaving like it was a wide open throttle on the metering side in terms of the fuel ratio, with the needle being stuck up there, but then the slide was still down because it wasn't been opened by the throttle and the vacuum, so it was running really rich, and fouling up the plugs. Only run for a couple minutes and then it would die. So what I did was I found an old carburetor here with a wrecked bike, and then pulled the washer out of it and then swapped it into the original carb sitting in here, and yeah, I've set it all up and hopefully it will start up. It's about to start it, but the battery's low. It's been sitting for a while, so there's not much on the starter here, so I have to jump start it. Unfortunately, this model didn't come out with a kickstart, so I can't just kick it over like on this one here. Grab my spotlight. This model here's got a kickstart, whereas this model here has just got a blanked hole. So I might look into converting that one day as well. So have the option of a kickstart, which is always very handy. So yeah, I'll jump start this thing and see if it's running a lot better. I've got sort of good hopes for it, so I'll do an update. So I just started it, jump started it, and it's still running way too rich. It's a lot better than it was before. It actually runs, but what I suspect is happening is the emulsion tube and also the needle, they're both worn out. So I'll see if I can show you here. Once again, the needle, and this one's very dirty, but if you could just imagine that the side of it was worn, so there's like a groove in there, and then that needle was supposed to mate up with the emulsion tube, which is down in the bottom of the carb here, where it goes from the main jet right in the middle all the way up. You can see it right there. If that emulsion tube and that needle was worn out, which it was in this one, it's still going to let too much fuel in. And what I suspect has happened is it's had a worn needle and a worn emulsion tube, and somebody's been in there before and tried to repair it, because I noticed that the needle had actually been raised, which makes it even more rich. So he was having a rich running issue, and in his attempt to repair it, he raised the needle to try to get the worn out zone away from the emulsion tube, or the worn out zone on the needle away from the emulsion tube, and in effect he's just compounded the issue and made it run even more rich. So I'm not even going to bother trying to lower the needle. I'm just going to order a new needle and emulsion tube tomorrow. It's only like $40, and then it guarantees that you've got the the correct needle, not worn, in the correct emulsion tube, which is also not worn, and you'll be getting a good fuel to air ratio from the factory specification. So I'm going to do that tomorrow. And also it's got a leaking float valve, which is this one here, as the float, and as it fills up, as the bowl fills up with fuel, try to hold it properly, it's kind of difficult. As the bowl fills up with fuel, it would push the float up like that, and it will close the valve here, the float valve assembly. And this one here is actually seized because it's dirty, but you can see that little tab there where it mates up to the arm of the float valve. It's touching right now and touching right now. That is the float valve, and that one isn't seating properly in this carburetor, so it's leaking fuel out the overflow, which probably also isn't helping its running. So a couple parts: a float valve assembly, and then check the float height for switching off the fuel, and then a new needle and emulsion tube, and set it to factory spec, and then tune it. And I believe it should be running fine after that. And I might also adjust the valves quickly because it's easier to do. So didn't really get a view of it running because I was in the dark and I was using my ute to jump start it, and it was too many things with not enough hands. So yeah, I'll see if I get it running properly tomorrow, hopefully. But good progress today. Glad it got running. Just have to sort out that rich running issue, and yeah, that's about it. So I'll hopefully give you guys an update tomorrow.